Good morning, welcome to the first day of the Canadian readathon. I'm so excited to start. I have every intention to follow my TBR, but things happen, so we will see. But at this point right now, I am planning to read Aisha at Last, Subtweet, An Unwanted Guest, and the graphic novels Surviving the City and Beneath the Dead Oak Tree. If I manage to read all of those and still have some time left, I might start something else, but for right now, this is enough. So I already have Aisha at Last checked out in my library, and I think I'm going to go on a walk and listen to the audiobook. Aisha at Last is a Pride and Prejudice retelling, which is super exciting to me because I love Pride and Prejudice. I'm also thinking of maybe making poutine. I'm not sure what poutine is. I do know it's like a Canadian dish. I will have to check the ingredients and see if it's something I would enjoy. If poutine doesn't sound appealing, I will see other things that I could possibly make and eat. Also for my vlogs, I do like to make covers of songs instead of using, you know, royalty-free music. And for like my reading rush, a Taylor Swift album came out, so I did covers of Taylor Swift. Since I'm doing a Canadian readathon, I was thinking of doing covers of Canadian artists. Look out for those in this vlog. I will probably put in the description below what songs will be featured. I still don't know. I've not started that yet, but you probably already heard a little bit of it. Anyway, so I'm going on my walk. I'm just gonna make coffee to take with me, and I will start listening to Aisha at Last.
Am I dreaming or stupid? I think I've been hit by Cupid, but no one needs to know right now. I met a tall, dark, and handsome man, and I've been busy making big plans, but no one needs to know right now.
It is 2 p.m. I'm back from my walk. I'm making lunch, and all this time I've been listening to the audiobook. I'm really enjoying this. I'm like 40% done, and oh, it's so fun. It's so, I don't know, it's so interesting. There's so many elements that I'm enjoying so much. It's very much not just a linear romance novel. There are so many things, so many topics explored, and I'm very, very much enjoying it. There are, as a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, I was obviously expecting, you know, a Mr. Darcy type who is, you know, prejudiced, judgmental, introverted, and then there's Elizabeth Bennet, who is witty and brave. But as I'm listening to this book, there are so many other elements that are present in Pride and Prejudice, which I was not really expecting or forgot about, and it's so fun every time there's an element that I recognize. Oh, that's right, that was part of Pride and Prejudice. It's so great. So we're following Aisha, who's in her late 20s. She is a poet, and currently she's starting a job in a high school as a substitute teacher. She's not enjoying her job. She very much feels lonely. She's unmarried, and she's very much a modern Muslim woman. And on the other side, there's Khalid, who is a very traditional young man. He's definitely very introverted. He has this long beard. He wears traditional clothes and is very devout to his religion, and he even honors some traditions and practices that are not as widespread nowadays, especially I'm guessing in Canada. Like, he doesn't do handshakes with women, he doesn't touch women. Each of their personal stories, Aisha navigating her new job and trying to figure out her life, what she wants to do. And there's Khalid, who has a new boss at work who is very much prejudiced against him and the way he dresses, and his traditions and is trying to fire him. There are a lot of social commentary, there is a lot of cultural elements that are so fun to explore. So it's great. Their banter is great, and I'm really enjoying this book. I'm going to try and finish it today, maybe tomorrow. It's 7 p.m. already. I've been working and reading, and I just changed to do a workout. So I asked on my Instagram about what Canadian artist do you want me to cover, what songs do you want me to sing, and I got a lot of requests for Drake. Not that I'm not a fan of Drake, I'm just not familiar with his music. The songs that I do know are not really my favorite songs, but challenge accepted.
Call me on my cell phone late now when you need my love. I know when that hotline bling, that can only mean one thing. I know when that hotline bling, that can only mean one thing. Ever since I left the city, you got a reputation for yourself now. Everybody knows I feel left out. Girl, you got me down, you got me stressed out. Cause ever since I left the city, you starting wearing less and going out more. Glasses
I finished Aisha at last, and I really liked it. I think I'm gonna give it a 4-star because it did everything it set out to do. It was fun revisiting Pride and Prejudice, and I really enjoyed it on like an intellectual level, but emotionally I'm not quite there. The topic of family and community is very strong. I liked all the cultural discussions. There's like judgment within the community, and you know, what is it to be, you know, the right kind of Muslim, and is that a thing? And they're very interesting discussions that I really enjoyed. So reading wise, I'm gonna start on the ebook of Subtweet. I also have an unwanted guest available in the library, so I'll go back and forth. The audiobooks are such a fast read for me, so I do like to get them out of the way. I go through them quickly. I did look into poutine, and I will not be making poutine in this vlog because there's no way for me to make French fries.
That makes them so appealing. Lauren rummages through her handbag for her lipstick. She finds it, a nice shade of...
Okay, so it's now 3 p.m. I've already had lunch and I worked for a while, and now I want to sit down and record some covers. I want to do a shout out to Rosie, who recommended I check out the Arkelles, I'm not sure how to pronounce them, and Ralph. I did check them out, and I'm actually in love. I've been listening to Quitting You by the, I want to say Arkelles, and I really enjoyed the song Tables Have Turned by Ralph. But also I've been listening to Canadian indie radio on Apple Music, and the song that came up that I loved, it's so beautiful, it's called Stay Alive by Mustafa. I highly recommend you check it out, and I'm going to actually now be recording a song by Alanis Morissette, which is my favorite song of hers. It's called Underneath. The lyrics are beautiful. This is my little recording station, I guess. I'm just using GarageBand. This is the super professional way I set up my microphone. And yeah, last night I decided to go ahead and look up the graphic novels that I was planning to read for the readathon, especially Surviving the City, which is about 2 Indigenous girls in Canada, and it sort of touches upon the crisis of Indigenous women disappearing in Canada. And I cannot find it. Basically, you know, it's not available in the library that I'm a member of. I'm a member of the New York Public Library. It's not available there. It's not available on Script. I could buy it on Amazon, but it's around $30. That's like the exchange rate, and it's way too expensive for me for a graphic novel. So I just really wanted to read that story, but alas, that won't be part of my TBR anymore. Beneath the Dead Oak also couldn't find anywhere, so not gonna be reading those. Because I still want to read something by an indigenous author about the indigenous experience, I'm going to pick up The Marrow Thieves and also Heartberries. Okay, so I thought I would briefly talk to you about an unwanted guest. I'm now 50% into the book and I'm really enjoying it. It's so fun. It's really that classic isolated murder mystery, only there are no detectives that are snowed in that hotel. It's just, you know, the guests trying to figure out if it's an outsider killing them or it's someone amongst them. And there was a very fun for me moment in the beginning of the book. One of the guests goes into the hotel library where there are a lot of books, and she picks up a book and she says, "Oh, I've been meaning to read this." And it's Suspicions of Mr. Witcher, or The Murder at Road Hill House. And I've read that book, and the thing that made me so happy, it's not just because, you know, they mention a book that I have read, but I found that book in a hotel library in Croatia last summer, and it's just that serendipity of, you know, me finding it in a hotel library and this character as well finding this book in a hotel library. I just thought that was very fun. It's non-fiction and it talks about the very first detective in England and his big case, which is like one of the very first murder cases ever that was highly sensationalized in Victorian England. And it's, as I said, it's a non-fiction. It talks about how the profession of a detective came to be. If you're into true crime, it's a great read. It's a little dry at times, but I found it very interesting. I have a few errands to run today and I have to do some work.
Try to call you up and spend some time to see, but somebody's in your way. Try to let it go and say I'm over you. I'm not over you, but I'm trying. Body for one, if you don't care about me, I'll just.
It is now Thursday and I did not update you last night. So yesterday me and my sister went to the city center to rent bikes and cycle around Moscow. It was great. Reading wise, I did finish An Unwanted Guest and I gave it 3 stars. It was a perfectly good murder mystery. I enjoyed it. The, you know, reveal was not, I was not expecting it, but it did not surprise me at the same time. So it just felt very lukewarm, but it's a perfectly good murder mystery. So if you're into that, pick it up. I've also been listening to Heartberries on audiobook and I'm having a very hard time with it. Heartberries is a memoir by an indigenous woman about, you know, her life. She has had a very complicated life. She's been diagnosed with manic depression and bipolar disorder. She was abused in her childhood and went through several abusive relationships in her life. So the topics of this book, they're pretty heavy, but what I'm having trouble with is the style. It's very hard to get into for me. I read some Goodreads reviews and some people seem to really enjoy this kind of style. It's very much, you know, stream of consciousness, and it's just, I'm really not responding to the writing style. I know that I won't be able to give it a high star rating because, you know, I rate books by my enjoyment of them. I'm not enjoying this book at all. I'm really struggling, but I don't want it to seem like I'm rating this woman's experience and her life, which I'm absolutely not. Now it's 4:30 p.m. and I think I'm going to finish Hardberries and start Marrow Thieves. And I really should start reading the subtweet because I've not even started, and that's the only book that I have on my TBR right now that I would actually read with my eyes. I chose the dish, the Canadian dish that I want to do this week. I settled on the Pouding Chômeur. From what I understand, it translates into the unemployment pudding. Originated during the Great Depression. I read that this is one of the most traditional Canadian dishes because it's so old.
J'ai compris tous les mots, j'ai bien compris, merci. Raisonnable et nouveau, c'est ainsi par ici. Que les choses ont changé, que les fleurs ont fané, que le temps d'avant, c'était le temps d'avant. C'est tout appelasse, les amours aussi passent. Il faut que tu saches, j'irai chercher ton corps si tu l'emportes ailleurs. Même si dans tes danses, d'autres dansent et tes heures. J'irai chercher ton âme, dans le froid, dans les flammes. Je te jetterai des sorts pour que tu m'aimes encore.
So it's now much later, and the pudding, which is actually a cake, was successful, though it's definitely way too dry. I think I left it on for too long. I'm gonna link the recipe that I was following, but you know, I feel connected to the French Canadians already. There is a show that's Canadian that I love so much. It's called Murdoch Mysteries. If you've never heard of it, it's a detective story that's set in Toronto in the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. So it's all, you know, centered around new discoveries in science and technology, and I love that show so much. So yeah, that was just a random thing that I remembered. In terms of books, I did finish Hardberries, and you know, my thoughts didn't really change. I am glad that I read this story, but yeah, I did not enjoy the book. I'm not gonna talk about it again because, you know, it hurts my heart to, you know, put a low rating on someone's memoir. This is all I have to say for now. Good night.
I can't get you off my mind if they only knew who I've been talking to. You got a place off the park.
Happy Friday. I am finally home. Today was hard. So I literally had two major things that needed to be done today. I only managed to do one and it took me hours and I'm so tired. Today was the first time I rode the subway in months, ever since, you know, quarantine started, and you know, I was wearing my mask. It was just weird. You know, an errand that was supposed to be super fast and easy took me so long because I went to, you know, one address, they were closed, so I had to go to another one, and that particular spot, they didn't, you know, do the thing that I needed them to do, so I had to go to a third location. I rode the subway, I rode the bus, I rented a city bike, and I was biking all day. Back and forth just to like get this one thing done. It's now 4 p.m. I've walked a total of 15,000 steps, which is 11 kilometers. That's a lot. My plan is just to, you know, I'm gonna nap and lay in bed. I was supposed to work out today, but not gonna happen. Everything hurts. I tried listening to the audiobook of The Marrow Thieves, but the audiobook is the volume is very low. Even when I put like the maximum volume on my phone, it's still pretty low. So listening to it outside with cars and, you know, on the subway was impossible. So I ended up starting the subtweet. So far, it's okay. one of the characters is very unpleasant to read from. She's very snobbish when it comes to music. Like, she considers doing covers of other songs below her.
So I'll call you when I'm outside. You send the keys behind the porch light for Unit 2.
So it is now 6 p.m. I am almost done with Marrow Thieves and I'm 25% into Subtweet. So I'm doing great.
There's me looking down at my shoes, the one smiling like the sun, that's you. What were you thinking?
My book, The Subtweet, it explores social media, but also female friendship. Both of the protagonists, Neela and Rukmini, are musicians, and it's set in Toronto, and there are songs in the book. So I thought, as a multidisciplinary artist, why don't I record the songs that these fictional songs, and put out a soundtrack as well. Nobody can see my wanted. Don't wanna be wanted.
What was the song inside your head? There's ice going on about a band, working out how we play our hands. I lay there dreaming later on alone in my bed. If I was stupid, maybe careless, so were you. Not everything is supposed to come true.
Focus on me. So it is the last day of the Canadian readathon and I'm super excited to finish these books and talk to you about them. I'm ready to get into the books. I'm going to start with Marrow Thieves and continue the audiobook. I have like an hour left-ish.
Words are best unsaid. Some love is not really love at all. I'll keep everything I shared with you, and that's enough. There's eyes, freeze frame.
Okay, so I finished the Marrow Thieves. Oh, I gave it 4 stars and it was beautiful. This is a dystopian novel, and I think the year that is set, it's 2050 something. You know, when you hear YA dystopian, whatever you imagine that is, this is not it. Because of global warming, there have been a lot of natural disasters, a lot of new diseases happening, and basically people stop dreaming, and the indigenous people of North America are the only ones left with the ability to dream. And apparently, at least in this book, that ability to dream is within their bone marrow. And so in this book, the government of Canada is basically hunting indigenous people to harvest their bone marrow, well, essentially just killing them. So we're following Frenchie, who is 16 years old, and he is on the run in the woods. It's not really plot heavy. It's very much about community and family. He ends up finding people that will become his found family, and they will be on the run together, and it's heartbreaking seeing, you know, this boy who at times is very much the 16-year-old boy, see his playful young side combating with also being very much a survivor and needing to be this grown-up and make hard decisions and, you know, learn how to hunt. There are also a lot of mentions of residential schools and its impact on the indigenous community, and I started researching, you know, what they were and whoa. I mean, reading like about what actually happened, it all makes so much sense to me. If you, like me, know very little about the indigenous communities in North America, please Google residential schools and be as harrowed as I am right now. I mean, oh my god. To actually like see photos, read accounts of what was happening there is so harrowing and heartbreaking. And the fact that the last one, I think it said that the last one closed in 1996. That is what?
In what we're doing in here that doesn't show. Symptoms out there, so I spend all our time in dressing our bandages when we've the ultimate key to the cause right here underneath.
And it's done. Before I do a wrap up of everything that I've read this week, I need to talk about the subtweet. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. So the story is about 2 women and their friendship, basically. One of them, Neela, is an established musician, and then there's Rukmini, who's a journalist, and she decides to do a cover of one of Neela's songs, and her cover blows up. Rukmini reaches out to Neela and they strike this friendship. This book is talking about, it's very much about friendships and about jealousy and about the call-out cultures, how they navigate social media, especially Twitter, and how that has impact on their friendship and their careers. I think what made me give it 3 stars was that, first of all, I realized that books with a prevalent theme of social media are probably not my cup of tea. The other book that I read that had a lot of, you know, Twitter in it was The Tweet Cute, and I also gave that book 3 stars. I think maybe I'm just not into the element of social media being in books, even though I definitely see the appeal of it and how important it is in our society nowadays to include that element, because it does have impact on what we do and our relationships with other people and with ourselves. So I really appreciate having that element. It's just I don't think I respond well to it. As I was reading, I was taking notes on my phone because I didn't want to forget anything. And I said they're both not fully open in this friendship. Their guard is up, which comes up whenever there is a gap in communication. Their thoughts turn negative and defensive. Sort of that insecurity within a friendship is an interesting topic to explore. But I didn't enjoy Neela as a lead character. She is very snobby when it comes to music, which I automatically hate. And also when you read from her perspective, you see how what she's doing is always assuming negative intent from other people, and yeah, that's really annoying. So overall, it's a very interesting book that explores very interesting topics, but the tone of it, certain elements were not appealing to me. So I ended up reading 5 books this week. What? And it was so much fun. Let me know if you took part of the readathon. If you did, what did you read? If you read any of the books that I mentioned, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with my rating or not? And I will see you in my next video. Thank you for watching.